Welcome to Woman Talk, where we keep it real. My name is Tarra. Please join me and my girls Dee and Promesta as we have difficult and informative conversations. Our goal is to uplift and encourage you. Please go with us on this journey.
Workplace stress, like, just even workplace stress, how overwhelming it can be for people. I think when you have a lot of stress within the workplace, I know for sure it can affect, it can affect your memory, your functioning, your workload, how your work production and all of those things. What kind of advice, and actually, what kind of advice do you have for, like, not only the workers, but the supervisors? Because I think that employers, the management team, I think that they should start paying a little bit closer attention to things like that, because a lot of times the work stress is coming from the personalities. So when you get either a new manager, supervisor, whatever, everybody turns around and has to adjust to that one person. Mm-hmm. And that one person, it could be good, bad, and different of their ways. Everybody is adjusting to them.
Girl, talking about the workplace, I mean, where we used to work.
Well, but I mean, and actually, yes, like stuff like, I'm just serious, stuff like that. There's, we can go back when we all worked together, behaviors that I know should have been unacceptable.
Right.
For the workplace. Coming from,
but again, then you're asking people to really try to, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, try to control people's personalities. That's why there are big, thick manuals on conduct, because people are going to be who they are. Most of the time, when you see these issues, it's because that person is having their own mental health struggle that needs to be addressed. So it's just like making sure that those things are available. I always would tell anybody who got a job, make sure you're taking time off. It just, that's a big, huge thing. Because again, just like going to school for kids, we spend more time many times at our jobs than we do even at our houses. It's just reality.
Very true.
So that's not, and work is not a relaxing environment where we want our home to be a relaxing environment. So take time off. You need to be able to do that. Most of the time, that's why these jobs, they know, I always say it's a trade-off. They paying you a very good salary, giving you all these benefits, you better read the fine print. It must mean you're gonna be putting up with some stuff that you wouldn't necessarily put up with in some other kind of profession. So take advantage of the benefits that are given. If you got an EAP, do it. Why not? That's an employee assistance program. Most employers, especially governmental type entities, have EAP programs. So it's where the job will pay for a certain amount of counseling sessions for a person to go. Sometimes they send you when you acting bad, having bad behavior. Or something like that, but it's just a benefit that you can take advantage of. So that's it. Know your benefits, know your rights. That's another thing. Know what's available to you if you have the benefit of a union. Learn how to employ those things, and then you'll have less stress because you'll know that there are some protections that are available for you. Most of the time, people are stressed because they don't believe that they have any options, but it's always options.
Sometimes I think I found it beneficial for me is you really can go sometimes, not every time, and even speak to that person, because and speak to them, because a lot of times, like you said, people are set in their ways, you're set in your ways. But if you bring their ways to the light and how that it may be affecting you, if you have someone that is being, that you consider a good supervisor, or I'm just going to say a person that cares about how other people feel, let me say that, then that person will reevaluate. And sometimes you have to come together, like you said, and tell a person how you feel and how they made you feel.
Yeah.
And then when you come together and do that, if a person does care, they will make those changes even in the workplace.
I was working somewhere, and my supervisor at that time was a little aggressive sometimes, and his personality clashed, his or her personality clashed with a lot of other people in the office. And one time, my supervisor had really said something to me in front of everybody. And I really was almost in tears. It was just very mean-spirited. And after that, Promesa came out, and I was like, hold up, I ain't gonna let you talk to me any old way. I don't care if you're my supervisor or not. Like, you're not gonna talk to me like that, let alone in front of people, in front of my coworkers. And then I don't want to say I let them have it, but in my own type of way, I let them have it in a respectful way as best as I could. But I will tell you, this person like almost smirked. There was like almost a smile, but it seemed like a respect thing happened in that setting, in that conversation, where he or she, knew that that they couldn't just talk to me any way. And sometimes you have to have that conversation with that person.
And we're all adults.
And I think that's the thing to remember, because people have their own personal struggles. And if we can keep that at the forefront of our mind and treat everybody like people, and then being a supervisor, I understand. I don't always get it right, and I have some things that, again, I'm big on, if I explain myself, I never have to make an excuse. So if I've already told you, which, we do that.
Yeah.
I'm explaining to you how this process is gonna go. I'm explaining to you what I'm looking for. And then we can keep it in that vein. And most of my staff, it's funny, because they know if I'm calling them, they already know what it is, around what parameters and all of that, because I made that very clear. And just in the beginning of us working together, because it's important. It really is important. And we learn the mutual respect. Our workplaces don't have to be stressful. Right. But at the end of the day, the only person you can regulate is yourself. And sometimes that's regulating how you respond.
Correct.
To people who might be off.
You can't get worked up about everything, because sometimes you're so, maybe, things are so, you feel like things are so bad that you get worked up about everything, even things that don't even matter, like it didn't even rise to that, what I'm saying, to that level. And so I learned that too. Don't even get worked up over everything. Mm-hmm. Everything isn't worth it. Everything, some stuff you have to give people that the benefit of the doubt, that maybe they didn't say it the way you wanted them to say it. Yeah. But they're not you. So
Tarra, are you still doing Zoom, like counseling? Are you having your sessions via Zoom?
I'm doing both.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to contact you for, sessions or therapy, do you have to go through a certain type of insurance? Can they pay cash? I mean, do they have to be in your state? What if they live out of state? How would that work if they wanted to contact you for your services?
Thank you for asking me. So I have actually 2 lines of service that I offer. So if they want clinical mental health counseling, they got to be in the state of Georgia right now.
Okay.
That's how that works, because the state of Georgia is the only state that I'm licensed in currently. But if they want coaching, which I have a lot of people who come to me for coaching, they can be anywhere. So if they want to, and if they want coaching, what I do is make sure that they don't have any serious mental health issues, and then I'll work with them. If they have serious mental health issues, I will try to find someone in their state to refer them to. Because if someone needs clinical mental health counseling, they got to kind of be in a place where they can reach their therapist in case there's a crisis or anything like that. But if someone wants coaching, they can be anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you have a website that somebody can look at or pull up, or how do they contact you? Do you have a cell phone number that we can provide? Or
they can find me on Instagram. I'm learning this social media thing. That's the best way. And then they can also find me in like Psychology Today, ZocDoc. They can reach me through some of those platforms.
What is your name on Instagram?
Tarra Ray.
Okay.
there's some exciting legislation going on. So there's something called a compact that's happening, and there's 10 states. If once all 10 states are on board, then I can actually practice the mental health counseling in some of these other states. And one of those states is Florida, and I wouldn't have to go through the whole licensing process.
Oh,
That's what the
nice.
compact is about. So there's some nice, exciting things on the horizon. I will travel, you know, if I need to do some things with some people in the coaching vein. I want to say this because this is funny to me. even before I became a counselor, I just know Dee Dee has always believed in counseling, period. She ain't care. Whoever, which one, always.
Facts.
And I think, so it's funny when I talk to you guys, it's almost like preaching to the choir, because I know Promise also, it's just that's been the thing. So it's, it's just interesting when you have like a group of people whose perspective and philosophy is different than other people. So Dee Dee, tell me why you've always had that kind of the therapy, you just always have believed in therapy or counseling.
You know, I think it's when you've been through stuff, you know, in your younger years and stuff like that. And I internalize things, so I hold things in a lot. And I think that's why when I got older and I finally went to someone, I was like, oh, this is how you do this? Then I just, so I think it was that first time I went to visit, then I just felt like it was somebody I could talk to that I could tell everything to, because like you say, we all came up in that time where what happened in the house stays in the house. I don't know this person.
Yeah.
They don't know me. They don't know my family. So anything that I tell them, I mean, they didn't know them. So it was not gonna be any judgment there. So I think for me, that's what it was. The first time I went, I just loved it. I just loved it. And I said, oh, I would do this anytime. And I have. I've done it multiple times. So if I need to, I do it. I'm not in therapy right now, but I will get back in it in a heartbeat. Absolutely.
Promise, what about you? Because I know you've gone through your own therapy journey some. So what would you say? What made you okay with it? Because I'm telling, we all know Black and brown people don't do therapy. We know that. We're changing that. But so what would you say?
I just, you know, like Deandra, you know, you internalize a lot of things, and I had just suppressed so much my whole life, you know. There's a saying in Spanish, and I think I've said it on here before, calladita te ves más bonita. And basically it's saying you look prettier when you're quiet. Just kind of like, when you're little, you get brought up with that saying, like, just sit there, look pretty, and don't say anything. So, but it was almost like, but don't say anything about anything, especially about anything bad that's going on or that's happening. So I grew up with that, and it just, it was like boiling. It was just like a pot on the stove that's on high and covered. That's like how I felt with my mouth, with my voice. I felt like I was about to burst. One day I just was going to blow up, and I had to just get it out. And I didn't grow up with, oh, go to counseling and have therapy and, you know, stuff like that. It was what happens in this house stays in this house. But like Deandra said, you know, I felt comfortable enough to go to somebody because they didn't know me. They didn't know my family. They couldn't be biased. They couldn't, you know, take their side or my side or whatever. They were, you know, kind of on the outside looking in. And I needed that because I had just suppressed so much that I needed to release it. I needed to get it out. But I also needed to have somebody to show me how to really cope with my feelings, because I didn't know. You know, I'm Latina, y'all. I mean, you want to cope with your feelings, you go off, you throw stuff, you know, you're throwing your chancla, you know, your flip flop at just, you know, across the room, or, you know, whatever. I mean, you're just, you have these feelings and you're angry or you're sad or you're mad, and you don't know how to release that. You don't know how to cope with that. And so one day I was like, I have to get this out. I have to get it off my chest. I mean, I was going to you guys all the time, you know, crying. We were shutting doors in the offices during lunch, and just, I had to get it out. I had to, like they say, I had to get it off my chest. And when I went, oh my gosh, how it helped me. How
Mhm.
it helped me, to be able to cope with things, to be able to just, go through things, but respond a different way, or how I reacted. I didn't have to go off. And one of the biggest things for me was I felt, because I was quiet for so long, like I felt like I had to go off on anybody, on somebody, the moment they said something to me, because I'd been quiet for so long. Well, then I learned I don't have to say everything that comes to mind. I don't have to say everything that, I don't have to put my 2 cents in all the time. So after learning
Who
to
on this
say
call
what-
has experienced the promise go off?
after after learning to use my voice, I went from like 0 to like 11, but then I found the balance, even with my family, I was very impulsive. And then I just learned to balance, to hear people out, as like we were talking about, their feelings, that's how they feel, but then really internalize that in a way of, did I do something that was wrong? And take ownership of my own behavior, because my behavior was out of whack, because I hadn't been able to talk about things. But once I did, get counseling and, on medication for a time, I was just so depressed. And so, and so the medication going with the counseling, it just really helped me. So, after a time, that I didn't need the prescription, I didn't need the counseling anymore. Not to say that it's not good to, do a check-in and, hey, and just talk about some things, but I just, to that person that feels like they just want to scream, or they just want to blow up on somebody, like just yell, you should probably get a counselor, ask for some therapy before that happens. That's what happened to me. I just felt like I was just gonna, lose it per se, just stress and bills and, in and out of court, fighting over my kids and, fighting for them, and just the daily, the work stress, all that adds up. And sometimes we just have to let it out and talk to somebody, and then really look at why we feel the way that we feel, because sometimes it's even deeper. Like we've talked about this before. Sometimes it is from childhood, and it stems from, childhood trauma, or trauma that, or, something that has happened and it triggers. But I highly recommend, counseling and therapy and, all of that. It's so important. And like, was it you, Deandra, that said, or Tiara, I don't know who said it, but sometimes we have to look for the, we're interviewing the therapist just, because sometimes we just don't mesh well with that person, and not everybody is for, like Sarah, you're not for everybody, and they might say that you weren't for them, or, whatever. But we all love you, we love how you're, like Deandra said, your heart. And for the people out there that are looking, don't get discouraged if you go and you just don't feel like you are with the right person. Just continue.
Yeah,
Search,
find somebody else. But promise, I know we're gonna round this up soon, but I wanted to say, piggyback on something you just said, that you were on medicine. And you hear people say all the time, oh, you shouldn't get on medicine. Oh, you shouldn't get on medicine. I've heard people say that. And medicine is supposed to, I can't speak for everybody, but for some people, it's a temporary fix while you work on your problem. So sometimes you may need to be on medicine until you learn how to cope with different things. I've taken it. At first, I was against it, but I knew, I was like, oh, I wouldn't even be able to function, out at work, out, just even going out to the grocery store with this when COVID hit and stuff, and the things that I went through, with COVID, I was like, oh no, I said I wouldn't be able to function. So I had to do it. But you have to do things sometime, and then as you learn how to cope, then you may be able to get off of it. But people shouldn't be so against, medicine. Of course, we don't want to be abusing medication, but you may need medication to help you get to a point where you learn how to cope.
And what I always tell people is, because most of the time when I suggest medication to people, that's what I get. Oh, I don't want to take no medicine. But I'm talking to them about what's going to happen. Because usually when you come see me, I can look at the level of your symptoms, see where you are, know where we're probably gonna have to go, be able to talk to you about how much more difficult this is probably going to get, and then talk about how we just want to do something, maybe a medication that can take the edge off. Because especially if you've got trauma, and I start the digging, it's gonna be more difficult for you to make the needed changes as quickly as you might need to make them. Because sometimes for people, literally, they got to make some changes like right now. Maybe their work is being affected. Maybe their parenting is being affected. Maybe their relationships are being affected. Those kind of things. So it's just something to definitely keep in mind when you're out there researching things. I always suggest too, do both. Don't just take medicine and not see a therapist.
Right.
The two should go hand in hand.
Well, I know it is time for us to round this up, but I know, Tarra, you're probably tired of us calling on you. But I mean, I guess
yes,
well, we're gonna keep calling on you.
Y'all, I am not out here counseling my friends.
No.
Not call the professional board on me, okay?
No, she's not. No, you're not doing that. We're calling you and asking you for your opinion, or what do you think? Because we value that. You know what I'm saying? I definitely value you're very good at what you do. I love your style about how you do it. You're so real with it. It's just not, you're just real with it. And then it's your heart. You know what I'm saying? Like we know you're a good person. We know you care about the people that you're working with. So I think, we just respect that enough to come to you and let you tell us stuff.
Like when we're wrong. When we're wrong.
She'll do that. She'll do that. Nothing wrong with that. But we do want you, if you don't mind, as a licensed therapist, right? Or am I saying it right? Okay.
You can say it however, it's fine.
Okay. We want you.
Girl, she ain't about no titles. We're the ones who like encourage that.
But I just want to make sure I'm calling her the right thing. That's all. But we want you to close us out on making sure that we're, just what advice you would give to people. And I know we've already kind of been over it, but what advice you would give to people if they are struggling or if their children are struggling, and go from there.
So I think, like I said before, the biggest thing would just be, don't just suffer. That's not necessary. It's really not. Don't live beneath your privilege. And I always say, just as this is from the Christian standpoint in me. If Christ came that we might have life and that more abundantly, why are we settling for anything less? So anything that we do that causes us to settle for less than the life that we deserve, we should address. And if that's your mental health, address it. If that's your physical health, address it. If that's your financial health, address it. That's all I can.
Address it.
Just address it and don't suffer in silence. Huh?
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely.
We would just like to invite you in on our podcast where we're going to talk about some things. So get your tissues ready. It's going to be deep, but it's going to be real. So we invite you to just sit in with us and share our experiences. Share your experiences with us, and we'll share ours with you.